Welcome to I would say this is the third edition of the Fantasy Puck podcast. We attempted it back-to-back years. It just didn't work out, time constraints. We're back here in the third season of starting up the podcast. Our goal for this podcast is to just give you a rundown of what's happened in the last week, an overview of the Fantasy Puck Patreon League, some of our maybe better ads for the week, better performers for the week, and then potentially any trades or just news around the league. So today I'm your host, Mike. With me, Noah or FP Sven. If you're in the Discord, he's extremely active on there. He does a lot of the back end stuff. A very knowledgeable fantasy hockey mind or just hockey mind in general. I'll let him speak and introduce himself to everybody. Noah, floor is yours, man.
Hey, it's nice to slowly get involved in the content game here. I know Wicked's looking forward to this day. He's FB Sven's farm team in our Northwest FPPL division.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm Sven, or my real name's Noah for those of you that care. And it's been a fun journey so far with Fantasy Puck, and you know it's really cool for Mike and I and Chris and Don to get to talk about hockey, which we love. So let's get right into it.
Yeah, we're all friends from university, so that's where the connection meets in the middle there. And Noah previously did some writing for Rasball. For those familiar, if you're into fantasy baseball, you may know Rasball. But previously did some writing with them, so that's his strong suit. But yeah, so I mean, so much has happened around the league. I feel like in the last 2 weeks. I know one of our main topics we're going to get into at some point is going to be Ilya Samsonov. I'm excited to discuss that. But I guess in terms of just players that caught your eye this week, players that have been performing super well, what have you seen around the league?
So throughout the league, it's now that we've had our second full week, teams are finally getting their feet under them, everything like that. We're seeing a lot of our rock star players being rock stars, right? So if we're looking at standard scoring, a lot of the leagues we use incorporate hits as well, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of familiar faces, not only first round picks, but also some good FB gems that were putting up 35, 40 points for us this week. So I don't know how you did personally, Mike, but as I'm looking at my leagues here, like I'm probably looking 3-1, if not 4-0. I might need a big day today out of my Boston and Anaheim players, but we'll see. How about you?
Asking for a lot from Anaheim players. I guess if you have Vetrano, he's been pretty solid. Yeah, looking good. So I'm right now projected to end 6-1. And then the one is I'm in like an eight. I tied up the matchup, so I guess 6-0-1. And my the league that I'm supposed to tie in is an 18 team league. I had last overall pick because I came second last year, and we have some sort of like lottery draw. Um, and that's my excuse for now. But yeah, looking pretty good. I'm in the FP Atlantic League, which is the league I'm currently in. I'm projected to finish as the highest scoring team this week. I had some. I was like one of the only people not to stream. I'm like looking through the moves right now, and I'm the second lowest with just 3 moves. So that's just like staying true to my roster, I guess. But I definitely had some good performances. Arturi Lehkonen was an absolute beast for me this week. Colorado put up 6 last night against Carolina, and he had 1+2. He's been shooting like a ton. And then, man, OEL and Evan Rodriguez have been so good for me too. Just like waiver wire pickups that have been performing a ton in this first half right now. In this first like quarter of hockey, they've been so good. Did you end up getting them in any leagues?
Yeah, so Rodriguez has been a nice little pickup. Week one we were high on him. He had that high event game of like 10 shot attempts where Florida just didn't look good, but he did. OEL did. And then next thing you know, the next game he popped off for 4 points. So I know he had another productive week this
Yeah.
week. Um, Main topic of conversation for me when it comes to our newsletter we're putting out is Sam Reinhart. Had a week for himself as well. And what I kind of said is he at least this week anyway was kind of the trigger man on that top line with Barkov and Rodriguez.
Yeah.
3 games played, he had 5 goals, 13 shots. He even threw in 7 blocks, which is
That's
probably
weird.
a little uncharacteristic, but we're gonna standard leagues, a block's worth a point. We're going to take
Yeah.
those extra 7 points from Mr. Reinhardt, right?
Yeah, he plays big minutes. It's almost like the same system as Keefe, where, and I was reading some tweets online about how that system will always fail. And you see Vegas last season where they roll their lines and their big guys play around 18. But then you look at like Florida, I guess they were in the cup finals, so their system works, but their big guys play 22, 23 minutes. And that's what I like for like a player like Barkov on my team or Reinhardt. They play huge minutes every night, power play one, penalty kill one, and maybe that's where Reinhardt's getting his blocks from. But it's the same thing in Toronto
Yeah.
too. You're seeing with like Matthews. I think last game played around 24 minutes, and I think for fantasy purposes, like just you definitely like minutes is almost the most important stat in fantasy. Like if your guy's not playing minutes, that he's not going to be producing or he's just not getting good offensive opportunities. Like Owen Tippett, I know there was a ton of panic early with Tippett. I'm not sure what you did with him, but I'm holding him. His minutes have been varying a ton, like 14, 16, 17, but we know he's line one now. He's getting the power play opportunity. There's just no reason why they're not playing him. But yeah, minutes is like number one. Like if you're not focusing on minutes, like you're not doing it properly in fantasy. Like the
No,
defensemen,
exactly.
especially like Travis Sanheim, I know someone we've noted in the past, just like chatting together as a group. He's playing big minutes, so I'm interested there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll have your unicorns like Sprong last year playing
Yeah.
11 minutes, but having a goal and 3 shots somehow. But minutes is definitely key. I myself been holding Tippett wherever possible. Just to toot your horn a little bit more, we'll get right into the FPPL. You are projected in the Atlantic to be the top scoring team this week.
Yeah.
You mentioned Lehkonen, but also Dobson, 11 shots, 14 blocks,
Wow.
but 3 points to boot. And then your other top guy was Hyman, 5 points, 8 shots, 6 hits, 3 blocks. So I mean, we're used to him doing it all. I know a little birdie told me you have a future on over 40 goals this year, so
Yeah.
hopefully that pans out as well.
Yeah, it's the development in Edmonton's very interesting, and that's a very good topic we can segue into. So first, I'll start with I was just speaking of Daniel Sprong. Don just offered me a trade, Chris Letang and Sprong for Rupe Hintz, who was a keeper. So I think I'm gonna pass on that one. And then jumping over to Edmonton, like the development we're seeing is super interesting. So I watched the game last night. I don't know if you ended up watching. It was a little bit later of a game. But McDavid is hurt. He didn't play the end of the third period. He didn't play in the overtime. That's concerning. Now, where both of our heads are going right now is can we get future value on Jack Hughes and Nathan McKinnon for
Yeah.
Hart? Right? And then the
Yeah.
other thing is
Book,
that,
book Matthews, Rocket, Richard too.
and I looked at that, he's plus 300. McDavid's still the favorite for Rocket Richard. So
Yeah.
that's an interesting development for us on our betting minds. Um, but from what we're seeing is Hyman's now playing line one with McDavid and Leon, and then they have Janmark and Fogle line two with Ryan Nugent Hopkins, and then Evander Kane's playing third line, and he got sat. I don't know if you heard the interview he had. I think it was with, is it Scott Oak is his name? I think it's Scott Oak.
Yeah, the gray hair. Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
hear it, but Scott Oak's good to bring out the energy.
Yeah, so he said, I think he quoted saying, "I can't do much when I'm not playing," because
Oh,
Evander
geez.
Kane got sat, so it's not good development
Fair
there.
enough.
And we just talked about this morning. I think we're holding our shares in Evander Kane right now, but I definitely wasn't
Yeah.
on as high on him this year as I was last year.
No, like he's gonna shoot, he's gonna hit, but he was a little underwhelming when he was healthy last year. Like, obviously, no one wants to see the injury that happened, but then once I looked at it, I removed myself from that from last season and looked at it. I was like, oh, like he was good, but like not nearly as good as that sample size we got 2 years ago, where I think he had 20 goals in a short period of time, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not I'm McDavid makes me a little nervous if he is going to miss some time. They might skid quite a bit. Maybe we see Leon take a step, but
Yeah.
um, I'm not really sure what's going to go on there.
I don't own him anywhere, which is I'm kind of happy about. But again, you only own him if you had first overall pick. So Yeah, it just didn't look good, man. It's like it looked like he hurt his side, and then he was skating gingerly, and he like they were showing highlights, and he just looked lost out there. So there's some concern right now with McDavid owners. One thing we try and do is when there's injured players, we try and help you find replaceable players for them. With McDavid, there's really not much. So I assume that it's either going to be Nurse going to the top power play unit, or I don't know. It's hard to say. It's either him or Evander Kane, but I'm like, do I want to say Evander Kane? He's like they're playing him third line. I think him and Woodcroft are not getting along right now. So
Yeah.
someone's going to move into that top power play unit if McDavid goes down with injury. But if he does, the power play gets like 35, probably 40% worse with him out of there, given he had almost
No,
80 power play
exactly.
points. So,
It'll be like a few years ago when they had Mark Letestu as the trigger man.
yeah.
But their next game Tuesday. I mean, hopefully we get an update either today or tomorrow morning. Not sure if they'll have the day off, but they are in Minnesota Tuesday night, so we'll see. Speaking of Minnesota, we're gonna go over to the Metropolitan where this top scoring hasn't quite been decided yet. So we're gonna look at two different teams. So the Sonkers and Cold Blooded are duking it out right now. I think whoever wins that matchup will be the highest scoring team, and then whoever loses will be second or third. So we
Yeah.
hate when that happens. But Stonkers, we're looking at Minnesota's own. We love this guy, Joel Eriksson, 5 points, 12 shots on
Oh, he's
goal,
been
four
so
hits.
good for me.
4 hits is low for him, right? And then
Yeah.
Sonkers also has Jack Hughes, again, another one of our boys,
Yeah.
and he's got him combo with Jesper Bratt. So they combined for 10 points, 9 on the power play,
Oh,
and 18 shots on goal.
oh
So
man. How many shares of Hughes do you have? I
obvious.
think I have him two of seven, but two were keeper leagues because I drafted him fifth round last year in redrafts.
Yeah, I got him in. I think I got him pick 9 in my work league,
Yeah.
and that might be the only spot I own him, unfortunately. But he's looking to be a problem again this year. Did you see his overtime winner against the Islanders?
Like he is something else right now. And this is why in preseason, I kind of wish like we were just too busy with creating other videos. And like I feel like the late first round pick was the best. If you didn't have 1, 2, 3, or 4, I guess, you wanted to be picking 9, 10, 11, or 12. Like I feel like there was a dead spot in the middle where you get like Pasternak, Makar, Rantanen. But at the end, you were able to grab like Hughes and Kaprizov with your first two picks and
No, exactly.
right now it's looking like Hughes could finish as a top 5 player in fantasy, which is crazy to me because just 2 years ago I was like recommending him in the 6th round as like you got to be taking this guy, and then we saw the development last season of how good he was. But yeah, he is a phenomenal player. The only thing he lacks, and I think that may keep him out of the top 5, is maybe just because he literally does not throw the body at all. He doesn't hit.
Yeah.
But the difference between him at 5 and someone at 3 is going to be like 30 points probably. So it's not really that significant, but he's turned into a stud right now. And man, Joel Eriksson, I think I got him in 4 leagues, and
Yeah.
we both have futures on him to score 30 goals this year.
Yep.
What a
No,
beast.
it's good to see him turn it on early on. And then Cold Blooded, some other familiar suspects in his top 3. We've got Panarin, 4 points, 13 shots on goal.
Huh.
Rantanen, 3 points, 11 shots on goal, and then a big night from Brad Marchand last night to get up to 4 points, 10 shots on goal on the week.
Wow.
So,
Do you remember the ESPN projections on Marchand this season in preseason?
no, I don't.
48 points they had him for. And I
Oh,
don't know if
goodness.
it might have been only his rookie season he was not at 48 points. Like he has never been there. Oh, the ESPN projections are crazy. I was actually
Yeah.
at a family friends last night, and we had like it just got brought up casually about fantasy hockey. And one of the guys said the reason why I don't use Yahoo and ESPN is because how bad the rankings are. He goes, I only use Fantrax because it's the most accurate ranking system. So maybe that's something we need to look into in the future, is hopping over to Fantrax. And if you're a listener and you play on Fantrax, let us know why or the reason why you moved over there, as opposed to Yahoo. I think for me, it's just the Yahoo UI is really easy to use, and it's very user friendly. It's also familiarity. using Yahoo. But yeah, it seems like
I
Fantrax
feel that.
is a little bit better, but because we know the ESPN projections were a joke, and then Yahoo every year has a couple misses. Michael Matheson, they had like
Well, the largest thing this year with Yahoo is like, we're not even going to add position eligibility. You know what,
oh my
commissioners, you
god,
can add it if you want. Like that was like, come on.
the eligibility thing is crazy to me. I'm not gonna. I don't know if they're even like, are they going to be updating it at all? Like, do we even know, or are they just gonna say they throw
I,
it to the managers?
I think so. I think they're going to intermittently update it, but I, it's been nice. I haven't seen any screenshots yet where McDavid has defenseman eligibility or goalie
Yeah,
eligibility. So
yeah.
that's
Who
good to see.
knows? I know. And the lights started. That was one of the problems. The lights started to come in now. Um, so I feel like in my leagues, if my commissioner changed anyone's eligibility without anyone knowing, that could be a big problem. But I was also discussing recently about like we both play fantasy football on the Yahoo app. Why doesn't hockey have matchup strengths, and why doesn't it have start like the start and sit is a complete joke. Like I feel like if I had a question about, do I start Hellebuck against Edmonton or do I start Skinner against Winnipeg, and I'm like, it would be nice to have the matchup strength because in my mind, you would think that Edmonton's probably the most difficult matchup to face as a goaltender. Therefore, I wouldn't want to be starting Hellebuck. Whereas facing Winnipeg's probably not even that bad for Stuart Skinner. But you don't
Right.
know because there's no matchup strength. And I know like back when we used to play DraftKings, it was kind of the same thing where it was like team strength, like that player's position putting up points against the other
Yeah.
like their opposing team. Like I just feel like there's so many little things that need to be added to the app to make it so much better. But it's like it's small and they're already using it with the other sports. Like so everyone neglects fantasy hockey, man. It's crazy to me.
Yeah. Well, Chris has the end goal of us producing a hockey app, so we'll see if we can pick up the slack here.
At some
But
point, right?
moving into the Pacific Division, yeah, at some point, hopefully. Well, if any of us quit our jobs and become a software engineer, you'll be the first to hear about it.
I think
Fantasy
you can
Puck.
outsource. I think you could outsource someone to do an app for you. Here are our
Yeah, we'll see.
ideas. Here's the problems, and this is our solutions to all the pile up of problems on Yahoo. It's
Yeah.
frustrating
Okay,
sometimes.
Pacific Division. We've got Duncan McDavid. I think he was far and away the highest scorer this week.
How many points?
Couple familiar faces. I think he was up over 400. I don't have the exact in front of me right now, but most of these folks are 390, if not up over 400.
Okay.
So he's got Pavelski, 5 points, 6 shots on goal, 4 blocks. He's somebody I avoided this year, but he
He
continues to
always
be
does
father
good.
time. Ridiculous. Keller, 4 points, 16 shots on goal. That's the second highest I've seen so far this week. 16 shots on goal in I think 3 games. And then Carter Hart, the Flyers had some
Oh
scrappy
man.
games, but Hart had 2 wins. 2 wins, only 1 goal against, so he put a shutout up on the board as well.
Yeah, I think he might have let in 5 yesterday against Dallas, but yeah, he's been great. And I'm in a big league. I think it's a $100 buy-in league, and the Georgiev owner and the owner, he traded him in an attempt
Oh,
to keep Carter Hart in a league where you have to keep one goaltender. So he now went from last season with Georgiev and Shesterkin, and right now his goalies are Carter Hart and Vamelka. So that is just a complete early season overreaction, and again, it's a keep one goalie league. So Georgiev most likely will be, if not the best keeper this season, given how good Colorado has looked in the early going. But yeah, crazy to me that Georgiev was even in consideration to be moved in a league that has a one keeper goalie, and he didn't have his other keeper goalie is going to be Carter Hart this year. But man, just watching some of the games
God.
last night, like I want to see Hart on a contender, man. So bad.
Yeah, you hope for him. And the only devil's advocate thing is, the Flyers are corporately owned. Comcast is saying, we want a contender. We're going to spend however much money it takes. So I don't know if ownership is going to support, stripping it down. I know Danny Brier's gonna do great things as the general manager, but I guess we'll see what happens. I would love to see Hart in a new uniform, playing a lot more meaningful hockey than he will in Philadelphia the next couple of years. But
Yeah.
it's one of those things. They've consistently been like, they lucked out and got the second overall pick the one year and took Nolan Patrick, but otherwise they've been picking like
Michikov.
7th, 11th, and so we'll see what Michkov can do. We'll see what some of their other young guys can do, but we don't get there unless they strip it down a little bit. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens.
Couturier has been a pleasant surprise though. I drafted him in our league.
Definitely.
With my last pick, like the league that we play in with all of our friends, and he's been good, man. It's crazy to see a guy that hasn't played in 2 years comes back and is playing 22 minutes a night. I think one topic of conversation I want to get into, I don't know if you watched the Ottawa-Detroit game last night. Man, Josh Norris. So basically the way their power play is structured right now is they have Tim Stützle on the left side, like towards the benches, kind of in the Matthews, in Matthews spot. They have Jake Sanderson up the quarterbacking, who I'll get into after this. Brady in front of the net. And then they have Josh Norris in the OV spots, a little bit down, like kind of like in the middle of the circle on the right side. And the focus of that power play was to get the puck to Josh Norris in a huge shooting spot. Like he was taking, I don't know how many shots he ended up with, maybe 5, but that power play was get it to Stützle, get it to Sanderson, get the puck to Josh Norris for a one-timer. And it just kept happening over and over again. So, I mean, health aside, let's just assume that he stays healthy for at least 75% of the games this year. There's a lot to like with a guy that's going to be the primary shooter on the Senators power play. And then Jake Sanderson looked I'm so biased. It's crazy, but he looked so good last night.
Oh, we like what we like, but it's so awesome to see him take that step. And Norris was almost not getting drafted in 12-team leagues.
Yeah.
I put in a waiver claim for him in my work league because I moved Svechnikov to IR.
Okay, did you stash Norris?
It's an absolute problem. Pardon?
Did you stash Norris?
Yeah, so right after the draft, I did Svechnikov to IR, and then I wasn't sure how sharp these people were going to be, so I put the claim in on Norris, and I wasted that top waiver claim, but
I think it's worth it.
I mean, it's looked good so far, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, yeah. And then, so just seeing Sanderson, like I saw a stat that he's currently the 4th fastest skating defenseman in the league. Could be a hot take. I do think he's I think Chabot is now the 3rd best defenseman in Ottawa. Yeah, he plays minutes, man, but he wasn't very noticeable to me last night. Chychrun wasn't even that noticeable either. And they were out shooting them quite a bit. But yeah, the development here Sanderson should be owned in every league at this point. I tend to overreact on the players I like, and you know that better than anybody. But I could see this guy contending for a Norris Trophy in this season and in the next 5 years, given how good he is defensively, which goes very overlooked. From what I read, he's one of the best penalty killing defensemen in the entire league. He had almost 140 blocks last season.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and in Norris, they really take into account defensive stats because if I'm not mistaken, Hampus Lindholm was top 5 for Norris last season. I don't even know if he had 50 points.
Oh, exactly. And then the year Tyson Berry led defenseman in scoring, he didn't get a single vote. So
it was just
there is a lot more to it.
Yeah,
there is a lot more to it, but and it helps that he plays in a Canadian market as well. Like he'll get looks over a Miro Heiskanen, for example, because he's in that Canadian market and he's in the spotlight, right? So
okay,
let's look at the Central Division. We've got Squids and also Dusters. That's the full name. He's playing No Regretskis, who we'll see what happens today. No Regretskis is projected to finish higher. He must have a lot of players playing today, but with Squids and also Dusters being the leading team right now, his big boy has been Jarvis this week, Seth Jarvis.
Oh, man, he's 6 points.
3 on the power play, 11 shots on goal. He's been a very good pickup with Svechnikov being out.
Yeah, and I don't even know if Svechnikov will even hurt his value as much because they're different positions, correct? Mm-hmm. Bunting and Svech both play the left side. I think Jarvis and, oh dear, probably like Stefan Noesen. playing the right side.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure how they're utilizing Teravainen, but with
Center.
Svechnikov at least, and then I think in the past Teravainen, they play both sides. They're left-handed shots, but they played both wings, and then you
Okay.
have Nakash as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So that's probably makes up their top six.
Yeah. So right now I know that Aho was hurt. I don't know if he played last game, and Teravainen was the 1C there. So
Gotcha.
that's interesting. But I think when Svechnikov comes back, I know a guy that we were super high on. And I'm sure people want to hear us talk about it. I'm holding him. Like if he misses 8 games, it's not going to make or break your season. Like if he plays 70, 74
Exactly.
games, I think the way you have to look at it is the long-term value of your fantasy team. Like if you're a competitive team in the second half and then you get him back, not that I think he's going to miss the first half, but even with that players like Montour and Patty Kane, is like if you can like keep your team afloat until your big dogs that come back that put up 12 fantasy points a night, I think you'll be fine. I'm holding Svetch, and I mean my outlook hasn't changed at all. It was weird, man. He was practicing too. Like I don't know why I'm shocked that he wasn't cleared, even though he was pretty much taking all the reps. But
Yeah, I think what it came down to for in this particular case is they went on that 6 game road trip. So they're going to be back middle of this week, week 3 of fantasy. So I'm thinking it was more like, you know what? Don't bother coming on this road
don't
trip.
travel.
Get healthy, skate, do what you need to do, and then their next home game coming up this week, I'm hoping he'll be back.
Yeah,
So
spending more time at
we'll
home with the
see. But like you
trainers.
said, if he plays 70 games, he could still score 40 goals. Like the guy's amazing.
Yeah, and if he doesn't, we're gonna continue to see 11 and a half shots per 60 and 7 hits per 60. That pretty much only Brady Kachuk. Like JT Miller doesn't shoot as much, but yeah, just super good upside there. Um,
Yeah.
there are some key and another key injury too that someone we've liked is Sam Bennett. He's supposed to come
Yeah.
back this week.
Yeah, I think so. So hopefully that picks it up. Florida's 2 wins, 3 losses so far, so they could use another steady body in there.
Top six
Um,
guy.
yeah, just rounding out the Squids and also Dusters. We got Tavares 4 points and highest I've seen so far, 17 shots on goal. I was lucky enough to be at the Leafs Blackhawks game Monday night. He scored an absolute rocket. Willie gave him a little drop pass, and he
Yeah,
put one up over the shoulder.
man, Willie played
Very nice
good.
goal.
Willie was buzzing in that game. Oof.
And then our boy Kirill Kaprizov, 4 points, 3 of which on the power play, and 13 shots. So nothing unexpected out of the late first round, early second round guy there.
Yeah, seems like the guys with the high floors are producing well for him. So that's good to see. I don't know Tavares anywhere, but
Absolutely.
he's solid.
Yeah, like I couldn't help but avoid him, but he's going to be good for 70 to 80 points, even though he's getting up there in age.
Yeah. So I guess in terms of these teams you're seeing, what's been the goaltending situation? I know for me, I'm a Demko Markstrom owner pretty much everywhere across my leagues. What are you seeing with these teams? Not Saros, not Campbell.
No, we're not seeing Saros, Skinner, Campbell. A lot of it is like there's been a couple of big performers this week in the Northern Division. Silky Mitts, he's got my Vezina pick, Georgiev. 3 wins, only 5 goals against. They got into a bit of a track meet with Carolina last night.
Four
I think it was
last night.
6-4.
Hmm.
But he had a shutout earlier in the week. They absolutely dismantled Chicago.
Yeah,
So
bad.
that was good to see. Yeah, we've seen some Georgiev, we've seen some Bobrovsky, Carter Hart, like some other big performers.
Yeah.
Lots of volume guys, but also a few tandems. The Vanacek and Akira Schmid tandem that we like so much, and maybe a touchy subject that we can get into.
Yeah, I
In
like
in
it.
one of my leagues this past week, I got a nice 23 points off of. I didn't have my other goalies going, so I put Wool in the active position, and coming off the bench made 20 something saves, no goals against, and got the win in
It might have
overtime.
been
So
29.
what is going on?
Let me get confirmation here. It might be 29 saves.
Yeah,
Um,
but
yeah, good.
obviously before that happened, Samsonov 3 goals against on 4 shots. I'm not going to say it was his fault because Tampa was buzzing. Kucherov blew one. there could have been a piece of metal in net, and Kucherov's one timer would have went through that piece of metal and into the net
He's
like that. He was pulling.
he's another level of skill in this league. Yeah, so I mean, again, don't want to toot my own horn here, but last season with the Skinner call on the Campbell blunder, and now early going the Joseph Wool call with the Samsonov blunders. I don't know, man. I think, and we talked about it last night, I think Wool's an ad in 12 team leagues right now. I think he could be an ad in 10 team leagues. Like, how much more of a chance are they going to give a guy like Samsonov that has never been a starter in his career? 40 starts is his most in a single season, which means he didn't even get more than 50% of the games. That's actually less, about 48.5% of the games. So I think Joseph Wool's up to the task. He has been, aside from Wolf and Wallstead, who are two like good performing goaltenders in the minors, one of the best goaltenders in the AHL. He's a little bit older, which I like to see. Goalies always do well when they get older. But man, you could be getting a guy in Joseph Wool from free agency that could be starting for a team that may have over 100 points this season. That should have over 100 points this season. So,
Yeah.
like, what are you doing right now with Wool and with Samsonov? I don't know
Yeah,
with Samsonov anywhere.
No, I don't have any Samsonov. The couple of leagues where I was looking, you know, you and I share the same sentiment where unless we're, falling backwards into getting a Georgiev or Shesterkin in the late second round, like we punted goalies till the 8th, 9th, 10th round. So,
Yeah.
I saw a lot of value in grabbing guys like Markstrom, grabbing a Vanacek or Sneed,
Yeah.
grabbing a Cam Talbot. But I have Wool in 2 leagues, I believe, and I'm going to be kind of taking a look to see if and where he's available. Both being Ontario based, we're not going to have too much success picking him up now because we have a lot of friends that are Leafs fans, but definitely worth a look. I think personally, if it weren't an urgent matter in terms of picking him up, I thankfully already own him. I want to see him have a start where he absolutely steals the show.
Yeah.
The Leafs maybe even get outplayed, but he wins the game for them 2-1, 3-2, and he stands on his head. Their defense is looking a little bit suspect this year, so maybe that's what they need to. I still think they're my pick to win the Atlantic, but maybe that's what they need is just a guy to catch fire like him.
Yeah, I'm just
rounding
looking
off Silky Mitts. Sorry, go ahead.
You're good. I'm just looking right now, like last game, he almost stole the show, right? He came in, made 29 saves, and they got the win. Crazy to see that the Leafs had 52 shots on net last night, and Jonas Johansson 48 saves. I didn't watch. I wasn't home, but I'm assuming Wool made 29 saves. He looked pretty good. So I've been in since like 3 months ago saying that this guy's going to be the starter. I'm staying true to the word. I know there's going to be some varying opinions on it. But yeah, I just don't think. Another issue that was discussed last night, I don't want to get too much in the Leafs talk, but man, this Leafs decor is not good. Like,
no.
At all. Like, they don't have a number 2. They don't have a number 1. They barely have a number 3 in Riley. And then everybody else is like a 5-6, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But.
Oh, exactly. And I don't mind what Klingberg's done. Points only leagues, he's a fringe ad in terms of what he's been able to do there on the power play. But even then, they're not getting the job done, and I don't know how sustainable it is. Or maybe you look at, sure, you got a late first round pick back, but should you have shipped out Sandin last year? I know Chris is a big Sandin guy, but maybe that's what they needed, somebody in house making significantly less money than what they had to bring Klingberg in for.
Yeah.
To come in and run that power play, but I don't know. Hindsight's 20/20, right?
Always is, right?
Looking at Silky Mitts again, he's got Eriksson Ek, our boy, and then one thing I wanted to bring up, and it is an absolute head scratcher for me because the 8 shots on goal and the 5 blocks pretty much makes sense. But Slavin had 2 goals and 3 assists this week. Like, where is that coming from?
I don't know, man. Like, he's a sell high. He's not an offensive defenseman. Mm-hmm. We know that. They have they have, and people have been asking me about Brady Shea. They have too many mouths to feed in that back end to make these defensemen relevant. Like, I don't even like Burns anymore. Like, I'm kind of off Burns. It's pretty much just Tony DeAngelo that I'm interested in, if I'm interested in any. But good to see Slavin get some puck luck and score some goals. You did mention, and I'm sure you were going to say this, his minutes are down, but his production's up, and maybe it's a thing of competition now that he's playing against. But there's no reason why he's not playing against the team's top lines, right? He's their guy back there. So I don't know. I think it's just some early puck luck, and he's due for regression. If you were to tell me that Tony DeAngelo had those stats, I'd be more intrigued because I know he's playing a power play one, pair one role. But yeah, with Slavin there, not a whole lot of interest. But like some of these teams own him so far. It seems like the common theme between these teams are Joel Eriksson-Ek, which was the early strategy I wanted to implement was, and I think you and I talked about it, where it's like, let's just draft elite wingers and elite defensemen early and then grab Bennett, Trocheck, Eriksson-Ek in like round 12 or Cousins. And that seems to be working this season if you don't get one of those big centers early.
Oh, exactly. And I think even like people were a little bit panicky about Cousins, but I think he had a goal and 6 shots last night.
Yeah,
He might even be getting right wing eligibility as well pretty soon.
that's
So
big.
we were big on that, draft your wingers because there's so much center value.
Yeah.
Obviously if you have a top 4 pick and you take any of those top 4 centers or a Hughes or a Stutzel, like absolutely. But we're seeing a lot of success in the Tropechecks, in the Eriksson-Eks. Couple more familiar faces for the Southeast Division leader, Betsy's Cooch. He's got Jarvis, he's got Kaprizov, and then he's got Kucherov with 5 points, 3 of which on the power play. He had that rocket last night on the power play, and 15 shots on goal. So
it's going to be interesting to see how the leagues. Sorry, Noah.
Oh, no problem. You mentioned Johansson making all those saves last night. Like Tampa, I'm not really sure what to think just yet. Like their scorers are scoring. Sergachev's starting to pick it up a little bit. He had some power play time last night with a big power play apple. But are we hitting the panic button on their outlook as a team just yet?
No, not for me. Stamkos' health is a little bit of a concern, but I'm not panicking on them. I'm not panicking with Sergachev. Like if you took Sergachev as your defense, I hope you didn't take him as your defenseman 1. He was around like defenseman 14-ish off the board, the Carlson area, but I'm not in any panic right now with Tampa or Sergachev. But so far it looks like these FantasyPuck Patreon leagues are going to be extremely competitive. It's like I feel like every morning I wake up and I just like, okay, I got to see how my matchup went. And then I got a couple trade offers and I got to like go sift through everyone's team, see how everyone else is doing. Like, man, these are going to get really competitive down the stretch here. And I guess it doesn't help that everyone uses the same information because we're all active in the Discord. Yeah. But hey, that's all part of the game, right? So, but yeah, these leagues have been pretty competitive so far. I lost my first week to Seth, who, I was up 7, and he added Teravainen, who needed to get 2 goals. And what did Teravainen do? A goal at 5-on-5 and a goal on the power play. And Seth took the lead, took me down week 1. But I rebounded here with one of the highest scoring weeks so far.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's really good to see the engagement. If good players are on the wire, they're not going to last long. Those sorts of things. So. Really, really good to see. And then wrapping up, lastly, Northwest Division, Headbangers is looking like he's going to be the top scoring team. He's got Hyman leading the way. We talked about Swiss Army knife, and we'll see with McDavid out, but Swiss Army knife. And then Bobrovsky, Florida battled this week. He I don't like the goals against, 8 goals against, but he had 2 wins and 86 saves. So that's where those points are coming from.
There you go. Yeah, because Florida,
that's just Florida being Florida.
Yeah, and Stolarz is the backup, so I can't see him getting starts. I guess I don't know the status of Knight right now, but he's interesting for sure.
Yeah, we'll have a quick look. And then lastly, our boy Nate McKinnon, only 3 points this week, but 13 shots on goal and 5 blocks. So he's still getting the job done.
McKinnon, that guy should have 0 blocks at the end of the season. He should not be blocking shots right now. I'm
No,
surprised the
exactly.
shot
I mean, we
volume. To be
yeah,
honest.
we're hoping for him to have a healthy season and we can see what we can see. But that kind of wraps up our talk about week number 2. As we move into week number 3, the main thing that Don brought up, and you'll see a quick little thing about it in the newsletter, is this is right about where any NHL rookie, for those of you who don't know, if it's their first season and they're junior eligible, they're Europe eligible, etc.,
Yeah.
they do get a free 9 games where they can play on the team without penalty. So we may see some players that had some fantasy relevance kind of drop off this week, whether it be a Zach Benson.
Yeah.
I think he got banged up, so that's not going to help him. Um, Marco Rossi might be on that bubble,
He's
but
looked good.
in terms of other guys, yeah, he has looked good. But and then in terms of other guys, like I can see Coronado staying with Calgary.
Me too.
You know, I can see our top picks staying, whether that be Leo Carlson, Fantilli. Um, with the injuries in Anaheim, particularly looking at like Drysdale being banged up,
Yeah.
I'm really interested to see if Pavel Mintyukov stays with the squad or if he ends up back in the OHL.
He's power play 1 right now, eh? I'm surprised Zellweger's not
Yeah,
getting a chance there, but maybe Zellweger just hasn't looked good. I haven't been watching. Anaheim's the hardest team to keep up with.
yeah. Like I think what ended up happening was out of camp. What ended up happening was I think Zellweger didn't make the team and Mintyukov did. So
Wow.
Zellweger obviously at World Junior success, and we know him a lot more as a Canadian player. There was like 15 picks traded for him in the WHL last
Oh
year
yeah, yeah.
when they were gearing up for the Memorial Cup. But Mintyukov, I think he was 10th overall, and he was in. He might have been in Saginaw or Windsor last year. One of those Navy and Red teams in the OHL.
Yeah.
I know you follow the Greyhounds. I follow the Wolves a little bit, but otherwise, I don't tend to follow the OHL nearly as closely as I used to.
Yeah,
But
agreed.
he's another offensive defenseman. I think he's a big body, so we'll see if he sticks up with the club. I don't think there's anybody else that jumps off the page in terms of making it, not making it. I think it's pretty cut and dry. Like
Yeah, I
Leo
think you covered it
Carlson's looked
all.
good so far.
Yeah, maybe Buffalo's gonna send Levi down. No, he got
Yeah, well,
like 7 or 8 last year, maybe. But yeah, I don't. Benton's really the only rookie I own, and it's in our league where we need a rookie. So yeah,
yeah,
it's not gonna nothing's. It's not really gonna affect me. But in those deeper leagues, I can see it being some sort of a problem. There's always rookies that pan out. But the thing you got to keep in mind with rookies, if you own them, is that they take a while to start actually being like relevant. And people have been asking me about Fantilli. Just if you own him, just wait. Like he's 18.
yep.
He's just finding his feet in the league. Like just give it some time. He'll find his game. And he got absolutely robbed by Markstrom last game. I don't know if you saw that, but 2-on-1 backdoor pass from Line, and he got absolutely robbed. And it was shocked he didn't score a goal. And that happens, man. That's the
Well,
NHL.
welcome to the NHL, kid.
Yeah.
In terms of week 3, we do have 3 teams that have the old 4-game slate. I think the first 2 of which they play 3 of their games at home. That's going to be huge. So, like, first team we're looking at is the New Jersey Devils. Who do you like as like a potential ad with that schedule?
Andre Palat's interesting. Line 2, power play 2. He's a winger, which is important. Like it's gonna be hard to stream centers from there. Siegenthaler's another decent defenseman that plays good minutes, gets some blocks. He's pretty valuable in bangers leagues. It's not really a household name either, so I would be really surprised if people are going to be jumping on him. And then they do have a back-to-back this week. They play on the road against Montreal and then at home against Washington. So that means Akira Schmid's going to be getting a start this week at some point. So he definitely becomes, and those are 2 easy matchups. He becomes a very intriguing stream target here. I just want to see him find his game at some point, but I didn't get to him as much as I was expecting to this year. I was just because of how much Markstrom and Demko were falling, but those are pretty much the main 3 stream targets. Even Eric Hall
Nice.
is not
Okay.
even bad.
Yeah, I don't mind Holla either.
Former
I
Bruin.
once had dreams of getting a bunch of jerseys and then becoming the traveling Eric Hollas, similar
Yeah.
to similar. because he's played for 25 of the NHL's 32 teams at this point. But we'll see if he takes a step. Next is Montreal. Again, I believe they also have 3 games at home, and with so many injuries, I don't mind taking a look at Sean Monahan in some deep leagues. I think he's only 3% rostered as of right now, but he's power play 1 and playing over 18 minutes a game.
Yeah, that's solid look. I know with Doc, that poor kid, got a feel for
Yeah,
him, a top
terrible,
pick.
terrible.
World Juniors, we saw what happened when they sent him back and he broke his wrist or his hand. But the way you got to look at it in fantasy is you got to see who the filler are for players like that play in top 6 power play 1, and it's gonna be Monahan. We know what we're gonna get out of Matheson this week. Still just 32% owned. Gonna play. He's still playing huge minutes. Had 5 shots last game, so he's looked good. And then Josh Anderson, a guy we know that just likes to throw the body around, forecheck hard. It looks like he's going to be playing a little bit of power play one time, so I expect him to be in that net front, high danger scoring chances position there. So those are the 3 main streamers. I think the big one here with the Devils is that they do have 3 off night games, which are Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. So those are really where you take advantage, whereas Montreal only has 1. But still some interesting targets. Like, I mean, if Matheson plays 4 games this week and puts up 6-7 points, which I don't think is out of the realm of possibilities, you could see him going up to 60-70% ownership. Maybe I'm a little exaggerating, but it's a possibility.
Well, I noticed Slavin's percent owned ballooned by like plus 36%, something like that. He went up to over 50%. So maybe everyone drops Slavin and picks up Matheson where possible.
Yeah, that's
see, though.
Good point.
And then it's funny. I actually just realized looking at our weekly schedule that all 3 of these teams actually all play each other this week too. So that adds a layer of mystery. But then lastly, we have Buffalo again. They play Montreal on Monday, Ottawa Tuesday for the back-to-back, and then another off game with the Devils Friday, and then they host the Avalanche on Sunday. And a little birdie told me that that we might be attending that game in person. We'll see, but FB Chris may be there as well.
It's gonna be
exciting. I don't know how many Buffalo residents there are in the FP community, but that'd be a fun one to take in live. I know we're huge on Colorado. We love what Buffalo's bringing this year and their outlook. But a guy that we kind of identified at the start of this season, he had a really sneaky second half. Casey Middlestat, 13% owned. He's second line center slated in there. He's got 4 points in 5 games so far.
Yeah, I feel like you were like 3 years early on him.
Yeah, and going back to those Rasball days, I was notoriously 2-3 years early on players. I'm like, oh, this is the year Thatcher Demko asserts himself, and next thing I know, Markstrom is an elite level goalie in Vancouver, and Demko doesn't get a shot till the playoffs.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
100%.
I'd rather be early than late, right?
Yeah. I think we're seeing Cousins now move up to the top line, which opens up top 6 minutes for a centerman, and that's going to be Middlestad, who had a great year, like an underrated 60-point season last year. Peripherals are lacking a little bit, and there's those goals assist leagues definitely worth adding. Not really any other notable streamers. Jordan Greenway's playing for top line right now. Don't know how long that's going to stick. And then Matthias Samuelsson, just a guy that's pretty good in bangers leagues. That's averaging a couple blocks and a couple hits per game, playing 20 minutes. That's what you're looking for, right? The minutes are key. So those are more the deeper league guys. But some decent stream options. You got to be managing your waiver wire. You're going to have times throughout the week where you have a full roster and you don't need to be streaming players. You're also going to have times where you have, one open roster spot on those busy nights that you could be trying to fill in. But the one thing with streaming, and I mentioned it at the start of the podcast, is that I've only made 3 moves in the Atlantic League, and I had the most points this week. Sometimes you don't have to be making moves every single night. You don't have to be streaming every single night. If that means you're jeopardizing dropping one of your best players or someone that's been very good for you. I know there's always hype to get ahead of the curve and get those for sure guys that you don't want to miss the breakout, but sometimes it's better to hold on to Owen Tippett and not add Jonathan Drouin, who had a power play assist in his first game, for example.
Yeah.
But we can
couldn't agree more.
Yeah, the Drew and Connor Brown talk can be saved for another podcast. Way too hyped
Okay,
up.
and then lastly, looking at week 3, um, some key injuries, that sort of thing. We'll kind of just list off the guys that are only day to day right now. All of these updates are as of last night. So as we get into Sunday, Monday, we might actually have a little bit more news. And then obviously the big ones for us, guys that are targeting week 3 returns or, that kind of thing. Sam Bennett, obviously, Adam Ware available, get ready to make some moves, taking him off the IR.
He's
And then
low owned,
Svechnikov, like I said, yeah, no, it's criminal. It's criminal that he's
27%
that low
maybe
owned.
for Bennett. Like I'm scooping him up.
Absolutely. And then Svechnikov, as we mentioned earlier, they're getting off that road trip coming back to Raleigh, so he should be up. They're targeting week 3 return, so middle of this week is when they play at home. Um, but like we said, that doesn't necessarily impact Seth Jarvis's production because they'll be on different lines.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, and then just some players to fill in the short term for Bennett. Luosterainen's playing second line. Anton Lundell's not bad. And then with Svechnikov, I mean Seth Jarvis is obviously the guy you should be looking at adding. Another key injury here, Freddie Anderson again. Just oh my god, he can't stay healthy. Carolina's running into goalie problems. I mean, I know it was just a puck to the mask that caused the injury. But I was thinking last night, like if Freddie goes on LTIR at some point this season, it would not surprise me to see Carter Hart get traded to this team. But Kochetkov and both Ronta are there. Both goalies just were not good last night and have not been good to start the season. But I guess they're short-term ads. It's really matchup dependent, and then keep an eye on Freddie's status here. But yeah, with Svechnikov and Bennett coming back, hopefully I think we both own them in a couple leagues that our teams begin to find the success we've been hoping for from them. Could be a good time to buy low on Svechnikov right now, but we'll see. Hard to trade for a guy that's injured though.
And then no, exactly. And then obviously the big update we're waiting for is Patrick Laine.
Yeah.
Day to day with a last second head injury. Rasmus Sanderson
Got 4
as
games?
of right now is suspended 4 games.
Yeah.
So in terms of Columbus, I don't mind Marchenko giving him a look, and then Alex Texier, who again I was 2 years early on, is back from overseas and
France.
and hasn't been looking too bad in Columbus's system this year.
Yeah, Marchenko's interesting for sure. He has good shot volume. I actually see him owned on a couple teams that people have been shouting out, so it's cool to see that people have their eye on him. Yeah, just some notable injuries, and for those wondering, we do have it's part of our Patreon package. So for those who join the leagues, are eligible for this. But we do have a weekly newsletter that we release every Sunday night that breaks down all the key injuries, all the key stats from last week, all the top streamers, the schedule, and just some of our own personal fantasy puck thoughts that come out before it's released on YouTube. So this kind of gets you ahead of the curve. And it's something that we like to do, and it's just a different way to consume content. And I know the podcast today will likely be something that's listened to in a car. For those of you listening in a car right now, just drive safe, keep your eyes on the road. But it's just another way to consume content in the morning. You're having a coffee and you don't want to watch a YouTube video. You want to just read on your phone. This is just another way that we're going to give you some of our content before it's produced on YouTube. And we're going to be trying to actively update the power rankings. So this is all available on our Patreon. At the lowest tier, you get it. And you also get access and priority access into the leagues for this year and for next year. And I think that's a good way to wrap up the episode, Noah. We're going on close to 40 minutes-ish. So it's been a really good episode. Definitely, we're open to as much feedback as possible. The more feedback, the better, because
Absolutely.
The goal of this podcast is to give the consumer, to give the viewer what they want to hear. And we can't give you what you want to hear if we don't know what you want to hear, right? So definitely give us feedback. Tell us what you want to see. You want music? Do you want us to be more enthused? Maybe take some pre-workout before this and get hyped up. Let us know. We're still foreign to this. The video is not as much, but podcasting a little bit more. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. Any final thoughts, Noah, before we head off here?
Nope. It's been it's been a fun time. I know you and I went on and said, "Oh, let's try and keep it to 30," but
We always
we're so
do.
passionate about this stuff, and we love riffing it up. So 40 is actually astonishing. I thought we'd be here for an hour, and it felt like 5 minutes. So this was a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to doing it again next week.
Me as well. Okay, guys. So yeah, this is gonna be a Sunday release or Sunday record. Maybe a Monday release. We'll see how the editing goes. But yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. Thank you for listening in. For those watching on YouTube, we have a ton of content that's gonna be coming out this week. For those listening on Spotify, this is just gonna be a weekly episode. But there's still gonna be YouTube content that we're gonna be producing. This is just gonna be another addition to our existing content. And thanks everyone for listening. Thanks everyone for watching. And we'll see everybody next week. Take care.